The void of space stretched endlessly before the stellar resolve, its hull a patchwork of scars and repairs, a testament to humanity's struggle for survival. The ship drifted quietly through the quarantine zone, a desolate region of the galaxy where the exiled remnants of humanity were banished by the Galactic Dominion. Once, humanity had thrived in the galactic core, their influence spreading like wildfire. But fear of their adaptability, their ambition, and their unpredictability had led the Dominion to cast them out, branding them as a threat to galactic stability. Commander Elias Varn stood on the dimly lit bridge, his face etched with the weight of years spent navigating the fringes of known space. His eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the endless blackness beyond the viewport. The crew around him worked in silence, their movements deliberate and cautious. This was not the kind of silence born of peace, it was the heavy, oppressive quiet of survival. "Commander," came the voice of Navigator Myra Solon, breaking the stillness. Her tone carried a note of urgency, though she tried to keep it steady. "I'm picking up something, faint." "A signal." Elias turned to her, his brow furrowing. "A signal? Out here?" Myra nodded, her fingers dancing across the controls. "It's weak, but it's there. It's not natural. Someone or something is out here." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The quarantine zone was supposed to be empty, a graveyard of failed colonies and forgotten ships. Yet, as Myra fine-tuned the sensors, the signal grew stronger, guiding them toward an unknown destination. The stellar resolve followed the faint trail, its engines humming softly as it ventured deeper into the void. Hours stretched into what felt like days, the tension on the bridge mounting with every passing moment. Then, as they approached the source of the signal, the darkness began to shift. At first, it seemed like a trick of the light shadows moving where none should exist. But as the ship drew closer, the shadows resolved into shapes. Ships. Dozens of them. The sight stole the breath from the crew. These were no ordinary vessels. They loomed in the darkness like silent predators, their sleek, angular designs unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Some were enormous, bristling with weaponry and armor that gleamed faintly in the starlight. Others were smaller, their forms sharp and agile, built for speed and precision. "By the stars," Engineer Caleb Thorne whispered, his voice filled with awe. "These ships, they're ours. Human-made. But this technology, it's light years ahead of anything we had before the exile." Elias stepped closer to the viewport, his face illuminated by the faint glow of the ships outside. "The Dominion thought they'd crushed us," he said softly, almost to himself. "But they didn't. We've been building. In the shadows, we've been preparing." As the stellar resolve drifted closer, the largest of the ships came to life. Its lights flickered on, casting a pale glow across its massive hull. A voice crackled over the communication system, deep and commanding. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself." Elias exchanged a glance with Myra, then stepped forward. "This is Commander Elias Varn of the Stellar Resolve. We're searching for survivors of the human exile." There was a pause, heavy with tension, before the voice responded. "Welcome to the Eclipse Armada, Commander. You've found more than survivors. You've found the future." The crew of the Stellar Resolve was escorted to a hidden station nestled within an asteroid field. The station was a marvel of engineering, its exterior camouflaged to blend seamlessly with the surrounding rocks. Inside, it was a hive of activity. Human engineers and scientists moved with purpose, their faces marked by determination. Caleb Thorne was like a child in a candy store, his eyes wide as he took in the advanced technology around him. "This is incredible," he muttered, running his hands over a console that glowed with an otherworldly light. "They've taken everything we knew and pushed it to the next level. Weapons, engines, power systems, this is decades ahead of anything the Dominion has." But it wasn't just the ships and the station that held secrets. In a secured chamber deep within the station, scientist Lyra Kellen made a discovery that would change everything. The object was suspended in a containment field, its surface smooth and black as obsidian. It pulsed faintly with an inner light, like a heartbeat. Lyra approached it cautiously, her breath catching as she felt a strange hum in the air around it. "What is it?" Elias asked, his voice low. Lyra shook her head, her eyes fixed on the object. "I don't know. But it's old. Far older than anything we've ever encountered. And it's broadcasting something." She activated a nearby console, and a holographic display flickered to life, showing a map of the galaxy. Red points of light appeared, scattered across the void. "These are coordinates," Lyra said, her voice trembling with excitement. "It's pointing us to specific locations. Places the Dominion has marked as forbidden or uninhabitable." Elias studied the map, his mind racing. If this beacon is leading us somewhere, it's for a reason. This could be the key to finding others like us. To understanding what's really out there. The crew of the Stellar Resolve stood in silence, the weight of the discovery settling over them. For the first time in decades, they felt something they hadn't dared to hope for, a sense of purpose. The Dominion had exiled them to the edges of the galaxy, expecting them to wither and fade. But in the shadows, humanity had endured. And now, with the Eclipse Armada and the Celestial Beacon, they had the means to rise again. Elias turned to his crew, his voice steady and resolute. "We've been lost in the dark for too long. It's time to follow the light." The Stellar Resolve drifted through the cold expanse of space, its engines humming softly as it followed the coordinates from the celestial beacon. The map had led them to a desolate region, where stars were dim and the void seemed heavier, as though the universe itself had forgotten this place. The crew felt the weight of the silence, their breaths shallow as they approached the unknown. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared, breaking the stillness. Myra Solin's voice cut through the tension, steady but laced with urgency. "Commander, we're not alone. Multiple contacts, they're surrounding us." Elias Varn's gaze hardened. "Shields up. Open a channel." Before Myra could respond, the darkness outside shifted. From the black void, massive shapes emerged, their forms jagged and angular, like predators crafted from metal and shadow. The ships were alien in design, their hulls lined with glowing red veins that pulsed like living arteries. They moved with precision, encircling the Stellar Resolve like a pack of wolves cornering their prey. A voice crackled through the comms, deep and commanding, carrying an edge of menace. "You have trespassed into Targan territory. Identify yourselves or be destroyed." Elias stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "This is Commander Elias Varn of the Stellar Resolve. We are not here to fight. We are following a signal, one that brought us to this region." There was a pause, heavy with tension. Then, the voice responded, colder this time. "Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with annihilation." The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but Elias nodded. "Let them come. We need answers." Moments later, the aliens arrived. The Targans were unlike anything the crew had seen before, towering figures clad in dark, jagged armor that seemed to grow out of their very bodies. Their faces were hidden behind helmets shaped like snarling beasts, their glowing eyes piercing and unrelenting. They carried weapons that hummed with raw energy, their presence radiating an aura of danger. At their head was Warlord Kale Draven, a figure who seemed to embody the very essence of war. His armor was larger and more ornate, adorned with scars and trophies from countless battles. His voice, when he spoke, was like the rumble of distant thunder. "You are human," he said, his tone dripping with disdain. "The exiled ones. Weak. Broken. Why have you come here?" Elias met his gaze, unflinching. "We may have been exiled, but we are neither weak nor broken. We are searching for allies, others who have suffered under the Dominion's rule." Kale's eyes narrowed behind his helmet, his posture rigid with suspicion. Allies? What could humans offer the Targan Legion? We have survived centuries in this forsaken place, without aid, without mercy. What makes you think we need you? It was Lyra Kellen who stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension. "Because we understand what it means to endure," she said, holding up a small device that projected a hologram of Earth, once vibrant, now scarred and lifeless. "This was our home. The Dominion took it from us, just as they tried to destroy you. But we survived. And we've grown stronger in the shadows." Kale's gaze lingered on the hologram, his expression unreadable. Slowly, he removed his helmet, revealing a face marked by deep scars and eyes that burned with a fierce intensity. His skin was a deep, ashen gray, his features sharp and angular, as though carved from stone. "You speak of survival," he said, his voice quieter now, almost reflective. "But survival is not enough. We have fought for every breath, every inch of ground. Show me that you are more than words, human. Show me that you are worthy of standing beside the Targan Legion." He gestured for them to follow, leading them to the surface of a nearby planet. The world was barren and harsh, its skies a perpetual storm of ash and lightning. The Targans had built their cities underground, vast fortresses carved into the rock, their walls reinforced with layers of metal and energy shields. The air was heavy with the scent of metal and oil, the sounds of machinery echoing through the tunnels. Inside, the crew saw the heart of the Targan civilization. Warriors trained in massive halls, their movements precise and deadly. Engineers toiled over weapons and vehicles, their designs brutal and efficient. This was a society built for war, every aspect of their existence dedicated to survival and combat. Kale led them to a chamber deep within the fortress, its walls adorned with ancient symbols and banners that told the story of the Targan exile. At the center of the room was a massive table, its surface etched with a map of the galaxy. "This is our reality," Kale said, his voice heavy with bitterness. "The Dominion cast us out centuries ago, branding us as savages. They thought we would die in the void. But we endured. We thrived. And now, you come to us, asking for an alliance." Elias stepped forward, his voice steady. "Not asking. Offering. Together, we can do more than survive. We can fight back. We can build something greater than the Dominion ever imagined." For a long moment, Kale studied him, his expression unreadable. Then, he turned to Lyra. "You spoke of resilience. Show me proof. Show me that humanity has the strength to stand beside the Targan Legion." Lyra activated another hologram, this one showing the Eclipse Armada, the hidden fleet of human warships. The Targan warriors murmured among themselves, their voices filled with a mix of awe and respect. Kale's lips curled into a faint, grudging smile. "Perhaps there is more to you than I thought," he said. "But make no mistake, human. The Targan Legion does not follow. We lead. If you wish to stand beside us, you will prove your worth in battle. Elias nodded, his expression resolute. We wouldn't expect anything less. And so, an uneasy alliance was forged, bound by shared hatred for the Dominion and a mutual desire for freedom. But beneath the surface, tension simmered, as two proud and battered civilizations struggled to find common ground. In the shadows of the Targan fortresses, the seeds of rebellion began to take root, their potential as vast and unpredictable as the void itself. The stellar resolve glided silently through the shimmering abyss, a region of space unlike any the crew had ever encountered. The void here was alive with ethereal lights, shimmering in hues of violet and gold, like distant stars caught in an eternal dance. It was beautiful, but unsettling, a place that seemed to exist on the edge of reality, where the laws of the universe bent and twisted in ways the human mind struggled to comprehend. Commander Elias Varn stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the mesmerizing display outside. The lights seemed to pulse in time with the ship's movements, as though the abyss itself was aware of their presence. Around him, the crew worked in uneasy silence, their breaths shallow, their movements cautious. "This place feels wrong," Caleb Thorne muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. The engineer's usually confident demeanor was replaced by a nervous energy, his hands fidgeting as he glanced at the glowing void beyond the viewport. "It's not wrong," Lyra Kellen replied, her tone thoughtful, almost reverent. "It's different. Alien. We're not meant to understand it." Before Elias could respond, a sudden wave of pressure washed over the ship, like the air had been sucked out of the room. The crew froze, their hearts pounding as an eerie silence settled over them. Then, without warning, a voice not spoken, but felt echoed in their minds. "You have entered our domain. Why have you come?" The voice was soft, yet it carried an undeniable weight, like the whisper of a storm. It wasn't a sound, but a presence, something that bypassed the ears and spoke directly to the soul. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, their thoughts swirling with confusion and fear. Elias stepped forward, his voice steady despite the strange sensation. "We are searching for allies. Others who have suffered under the Dominion's rule. We mean no harm." The voice returned, softer this time, but no less powerful. "Allies. Suffering. Words spoken by many who seek us. Few understand what they ask." The shimmering lights outside began to shift, coalescing into a single point of brilliance. From the glow emerged a figure tall and radiant, its form both humanoid and otherworldly. It shimmered like liquid light, its features indistinct, as though it existed halfway between reality and dream. "I am Solara," the being said, its words resonating directly within their minds. "Leader of the Luminar Nexus. You have come seeking us, but you do not understand the price of our alliance." Elias stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Then help us understand." Solara's gaze, or what passed for one, seemed to pierce through him, as though peeling back the layers of his thoughts and emotions. The sensation was overwhelming, like standing naked before a storm. "You seek strength," Solara said, its voice heavy with sorrow. "But strength comes from pain. We were once part of the Dominion, valued for our abilities to see beyond the surface, to uncover truths hidden in the shadows. But our gifts became our curse. They feared us. They exiled us. And now, we exist here, in the abyss, forgotten by the galaxy we once served." The crew listened in silence, the weight of Solara's words sinking in. Lyra stepped forward, her voice soft but steady. "We understand exile. We understand what it means to be cast out, to be feared for what makes us different. We don't ask for your help lightly. We ask because we believe we can build something better, something stronger together. Solara's form flickered, its light dimming as it seemed to consider her words. Then, without warning, the crew was plunged into a vision. They saw the Galactic Dominion not as it appeared to the galaxy, but as it truly was. The grand halls of power were rotting from within, their foundations cracked by corruption and greed. Politicians schemed in secret, their alliances fragile and their loyalties bought and sold. The economy, once a pillar of stability, teetered on the edge of collapse, its resources drained by endless wars and exploitation. The vision shifted, showing the Dominion's leaders figures who ruled through fear and manipulation, their faces twisted by ambition. Behind them, shadows loomed, whispering promises of power and control. The fractures within the Dominion were deep, and the cracks were spreading. When the vision ended, the crew was left breathless, their minds reeling from what they had seen. Solara's voice returned, softer now, almost gentle. "This is the truth of the Dominion," it said. "A house built on lies, crumbling beneath its own weight. But truth alone is not enough. It must be wielded with precision, like a blade. This is the gift we offer you: insight, clarity, the ability to see what others cannot. But know this, our power comes at a cost. To see the truth is to bear its burden. Are you prepared for that?" Elias met Solara's gaze, his expression resolute. "We are prepared. Whatever the cost, we'll pay it. We won't let the Dominion destroy us or anyone else without a fight." Solara's form brightened, its light filling the room with a warmth that was both comforting and unnerving. "Then we will stand with you," it said. "Our abilities will be yours to wield. Together, we will shine a light into the shadows, and the Dominion will tremble before the truth." The alliance was forged, but the crew of the Stellar Resolve knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. The Luminar Nexus had given them a powerful weapon, but it was one that required careful handling. The truth was a double-edged sword, capable of cutting both friend and foe. As the ship prepared to leave the shimmering abyss, Solara's voice echoed one final time in their minds. "Do not forget, the brightest light casts the deepest shadow. Be vigilant, humans. The darkness is closer than you think." With those words lingering in their thoughts, the Stellar Resolve set its course for the next chapter in their journey, the weight of their new alliance heavy on their shoulders. The Luminar Nexus had joined their cause, but the true battle was only beginning. In the heart of Dominion-controlled territories, where the iron grip of authority stifled even the smallest whisper of dissent, scout pilot Finn Arthen moved like a shadow. He navigated the labyrinth of bustling markets and towering spires with practiced ease, his presence unnoticed amid the throngs of people. The air was thick with the scent of exotic spices and the hum of alien languages, a cacophony that masked the undercurrent of fear and oppression. Finn's mission was perilous, his purpose clear: to sow the seeds of rebellion. He carried with him the message of the Alliance, a promise of hope and freedom for those suffocated by the Dominion's rule. His journey brought him to the Mandalorian sector, where he sought an audience with Trade Minister Velran, a figure known for his growing discontent with the Dominion's stifling bureaucracy. Velran was a Mandalorian, his appearance striking and dignified. His skin shimmered with a silvery hue, and his eyes, bright and intelligent, spoke of years spent navigating the treacherous waters of political intrigue. Despite his high rank, there was a weariness about him, a frustration that simmered beneath his composed exterior. Their meeting took place in a secluded chamber, away from prying eyes and listening devices. The room was dimly lit, the walls adorned with tapestries depicting Mandalorian history and culture. Finn could sense the tension in the air, a silent acknowledgement of the risk they both faced. Minister Velran, Finn began, his voice steady and earnest. I come to you not as an enemy, but as a friend. The Dominion's grip tightens every day, but there is a way out, a chance for change. Velran regarded him with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. You speak of change, human. But words are easy. The Dominion's power is vast, its reach unyielding. What can you possibly offer that would make a difference? In response, Finn revealed a small device, sleek and gleaming with an inner light. It was a piece of advanced human technology, a quantum communication device, capable of transmitting messages instantaneously across vast distances. As Velran watched, intrigued, Finn demonstrated its capabilities, the device projecting a holographic map of the galaxy, highlighting regions where the Alliance had already begun to take root. This, Finn said, is just a glimpse of what we can achieve together. With this technology, we can communicate securely, coordinate efforts, and spread our message faster than the Dominion can suppress it. Velran's eyes widened, his interest piqued. He leaned closer, his voice a hushed whisper. If what you say is true, then perhaps there is hope. The Dominion's bureaucracy is a beast of its own making, slow, cumbersome, and blind to the needs of those it claims to serve. Many of us have grown weary of its chains. Finn nodded, sensing the minister's resolve beginning to shift. Join us, Minister Velran. Help us spread the word. Together, we can ignite a spark that will light the way for others. The Dominion's strength lies in its ability to divide and conquer, but united, we can stand against it. Velran considered his words, the weight of the decision heavy upon him. Finally, he extended a hand, his expression one of cautious determination. Very well, Finn Arthen. I will lend my support to your cause. But know this, the path ahead is fraught with danger. The Dominion will not fall easily. With their pact sealed, Finn set to work, using Velran's influence to reach others disillusioned with the Dominion. Through secret meetings and whispered conversations, the message of the Alliance spread like wildfire. Quantum communication devices were distributed, connecting disparate groups and fostering a sense of unity among those who had long felt isolated and powerless. As the days turned into weeks, the whispers of rebellion grew louder, echoing through the corridors of power and the streets below. Finn's efforts began to bear fruit, laying the groundwork for a widespread defection from the Dominion. The seeds of revolution had been planted, and though the road ahead was uncertain, there was a growing sense of hope, a belief that change was not only possible, but inevitable. In the shadows of the Dominion, a new dawn was rising, its light fueled by the courage and determination of those who dared to dream of a better future. Finn Arthen's mission was far from over, but the first steps had been taken, and the echoes of his actions would reverberate across the galaxy. The air aboard the Stellar Resolve was heavy with tension, a quiet hum of anticipation filling every corridor as the Alliance prepared to launch Operation Radiance. This would be their boldest move yet, a coordinated campaign to expose the Dominion's corruption for all the galaxy to see. It wasn't just a battle of ships and soldiers, it was a battle for truth, one that would shine a light into the Dominion's darkest corners. In the heart of the ship's command center, Lyra Kellen sat hunched over a console, her mind racing as she pieced together fragments of data unearthed from Dominion archives. The evidence she had uncovered was damning, a revelation so shocking it made her blood run cold. The Soul Cataclysm, the event that had destroyed Earth and forced humanity into exile, was no tragic accident. It had been a calculated act of sabotage, a false flag operation orchestrated by Dominion hardliners to eliminate humanity as a threat and consolidate their power. Lyra's hands trembled as she stared at the files, the weight of the truth pressing down on her. She could see the faces of her people, the countless lives lost in the inferno of Earth's destruction. Their screams echoed in her mind, a haunting reminder of the cost of the Dominion's ambition. But beneath her sorrow, a fire burned, a fierce determination to ensure their sacrifice would not be in vain. She turned to Commander Elias Varn, her voice steady despite the storm raging within her. "We have everything we need. Names, dates, transmissions. The Dominion's lies are laid bare. If we release this, the galaxy will see them for what they are." Elias nodded, his jaw tight with resolve. "Then we move forward. The galaxy deserves to know the truth." The operation began with a whisper, a signal sent through the Alliance's quantum communication network. Across the galaxy, encrypted messages reached rebel cells, independent factions, and disillusioned Dominion officials. The truth was a weapon, and the Alliance wielded it with precision. Lyra's evidence was broadcast to every corner of the galaxy, the images and documents painting a vivid picture of the Dominion's treachery. The reaction was immediate. On worlds long oppressed by the Dominion, the people rose up, their voices united in a cry for freedom. Cities that had once been silent under the weight of tyranny now echoed with the sounds of rebellion. Flags of independence were raised, their colors bright against the darkness of the Dominion's shadow. In the midst of the chaos, the stellar Commonwealth was born, a coalition of worlds united by a shared vision of liberty and justice. It was a fragile alliance, its members bound together by hope and desperation, but it was a start. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion's power was being challenged on a scale it could not ignore. And then, as if summoned by the collective will of the galaxy, the Eclipse Armada emerged from hiding. The fleet was a sight to behold, its ships gleaming with the combined technological prowess of the Alliance. Human vessels, sleek and agile, flew alongside Mandorian cruisers and luminar constructs that shimmered like living light. Each ship bore the insignia of the Commonwealth, a symbol of unity and defiance. The Armada's arrival was a message in itself, a declaration that the Alliance was no longer a shadowy resistance, but a force to be reckoned with. The Dominion's fleets scrambled to respond, their commanders unprepared for the sheer scale and coordination of the Alliance's forces. As the first skirmishes erupted, Lyra stood on the bridge of the Stellar Resolve, her heart pounding as she watched the Eclipse Armada engage the Dominion's ships. The battle was fierce, the void lit up with the blaze of energy weapons and the brilliant explosions of destroyed vessels. But amidst the chaos, there was a sense of purpose, a belief that they were fighting for something greater than themselves. Elias's voice cut through the tension, calm and commanding. "This is just the beginning. We've shown the galaxy the truth, but now we have to fight for it. Stay sharp, stay focused. We're not just fighting for survival, we're fighting for a future." Lyra glanced at him, her expression resolute. "They'll never silence us again. Not after this." As the battle raged on, the Alliance's message continued to spread, carried by the voices of those who had once been voiceless. The Dominion's stronghold was no longer impenetrable, its foundations were cracking under the weight of its own corruption. The seeds of revolution had taken root, and their branches were reaching toward the stars. Operation Radiance had begun as a campaign to expose the truth, but it had become something more. It was a beacon of hope, a call to arms for those who had suffered in silence for too long. And as the Eclipse Armada pushed forward, its ships cutting through the darkness like blades of light, the galaxy began to believe that a new era was within reach. The Dominion's reign was far from over, but its grip was slipping. The Alliance had shown that even the mightiest empire could be brought to its knees when faced with the unyielding power of truth and unity. The Stellar Commonwealth was no longer just an idea, it was a reality, a promise of what the galaxy could become. And as Lyra watched the Eclipse Armada press onward, her heart swelled with a mixture of pride and determination. The journey ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but for the first time in centuries, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The light of the Alliance was spreading, and nothing, not even the Dominion, could extinguish it now. The heart of the Dominion, Crystar Prime, stood as a fortress of power and pride. Its crystalline towers stretched into the heavens, their jagged forms shimmering like frozen fire beneath the light of its twin suns. The city pulsed with an unnatural energy, a cold and sterile beauty that masked the rot festering beneath its surface. For centuries, Crystar had been the unshakable center of the Galactic Dominion, a symbol of its unyielding rule. But now, the skies above it churned with the promise of war. The stellar Commonwealth fleet hung in orbit like a storm waiting to break. Ships of every shape and size, united under one banner, formed an armada that stretched as far as the eye could see. At its helm was Admiral Victor Halen, his presence commanding and unflinching. On the bridge of the Eclipse Vanguard, he stood before the wide viewport, his gaze fixed on the shimmering planet below. His face was lined with the weight of the battle to come, but his eyes burned with determination. "This is it," Halen said, his voice low but steady. "The heart of their empire. If we strike here, we cut the head from the serpent." The officers around him nodded, their expressions grim but resolute. They all knew what was at stake. The Dominion's fleet had gathered in full force, their sleek black ships forming an impenetrable wall around Crystar. The enemy was vast, but the Commonwealth was no longer a scattered rebellion. They were an army of worlds united by hope, by the dream of a galaxy free from tyranny. As the fleets clashed, the void erupted into chaos. Streams of light lanced across the darkness as energy weapons fired, illuminating the battlefield in bursts of red, blue, and gold. Ships danced and weaved, their movements precise and deadly. The Dominion's forces fought with ruthless efficiency, their tactics honed over centuries of conquest. But the Commonwealth fought with something far more powerful: conviction. On the ground, Crystar's streets were a cacophony of alarms and hurried footsteps. The towering spires that once gleamed with untouchable authority now trembled as the city's defenders scrambled to hold their ground. Yet amidst the chaos, a quiet rebellion was brewing, one that would change the course of history. Prince Zarin of the Crystar royal house watched the battle unfold from the grand balcony of the Dominion Palace. He was a striking figure, his features sharp and regal, but his eyes betrayed a deep unrest. For years, he had been a silent observer of the Dominion's cruelty, his loyalty to his family clashing with his growing disdain for their methods. Now, as he gazed upon the devastation wrought by their stubborn grip on power, something within him broke. The Commonwealth's ideals echoed in his mind, words of unity, freedom, and justice. They were more than just slogans, they were a promise of a better future, one that the Dominion could never provide. Zarin turned away from the balcony, his cloak billowing behind him as he strode through the palace halls. His decision was made. In the throne room, the Dominion's High Council gathered in panic, their voices rising in a cacophony of fear and anger. Zarin entered with purpose, his presence silencing the room. He stood tall, his voice ringing out with a clarity that cut through the tension. "This war is over," he declared, his tone firm and unyielding. "The Dominion has ruled through fear and oppression for too long. We have become the architects of our own destruction. The Commonwealth offers a future we cannot ignore, a future we do not deserve to deny." The council erupted in protest, but Zarin raised a hand, his eyes blazing with authority. "Enough. I will not be a part of this any longer. I surrender Crystar to the Commonwealth. And I urge all of you to do the same. The galaxy has changed, and it is time we change with it." His words sent shockwaves through the palace and beyond. The news spread like wildfire, reaching the Dominion's fleet and the Commonwealth forces alike. The prince's defection was a blow the Dominion could not withstand. One by one, Dominion officers laid down their arms, their loyalty crumbling under the weight of Zaren's choice. Ships powered down their weapons, their captains choosing surrender over senseless destruction. On the bridge of the Eclipse Vanguard, Admiral Halen watched as the Dominion's fleet began to scatter. His chest swelled with a mixture of relief and disbelief. "They're standing down," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "It's over." Back on Crystar, Zaren stood before a gathering of Commonwealth leaders, his head held high despite the uncertainty that clouded his future. "I cannot undo the sins of my family," he said, his voice steady but laced with sorrow. "But I can choose a different path. I stand with the Commonwealth, not as a prince, but as a man who believes in a better galaxy." His words were met with a chorus of cheers, a sound that echoed through the streets of Crystar and beyond. The Dominion's collapse was not just a victory for the Commonwealth, it was a turning point for the galaxy. The crystalline towers of Crystar no longer gleamed with the cold light of tyranny. Instead, they reflected the warmth of a new dawn, a future shaped by unity and hope. The war was over, but the journey was just beginning. The stellar Commonwealth would face countless challenges in the days to come, but for the first time in centuries, the galaxy had a chance to heal. And as the stars above Crystar shimmered with newfound brilliance, the people of the galaxy dared to dream of a brighter tomorrow. The galaxy, once fractured by centuries of war and oppression, now stood at the edge of something new. The Dominion was no more, its banners torn down, its monuments to fear and control crumbling into dust. In its place, the stellar Commonwealth rose like a phoenix from the ashes, its light spreading across the stars. Yet, the path ahead was uncertain, and the wounds of the past ran deep. In the heart of this transformation stood Administrator Clara Dorn, a woman whose calm resolve and unshakable vision had become the guiding force of the newborn Commonwealth. Her presence was unassuming, but her voice carried the weight of conviction, every word chosen with care. She was no war hero, no fiery orator, but something far more vital, a builder of bridges, a weaver of unity. Clara stood on the balcony of the Commonwealth Council Hall, a newly constructed structure on the neutral world of Solara Prime. The hall was a marvel of architecture, its design a blend of styles from countless worlds, a symbol of the diversity the Commonwealth sought to protect. Below her, a vast crowd had gathered, their faces a tapestry of species and cultures, their eyes filled with cautious hope. She took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice steady and clear. "For too long, we have been divided. For too long, we have allowed fear, greed, and hatred to shape our destiny. But today, we choose a different path. Today, we choose cooperation. We choose respect. We choose to build something greater than ourselves." The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing across the plaza. Clara's heart swelled with emotion, but she knew the journey was only beginning. The Commonwealth was an idea, a fragile hope that required nurturing. It was her task to turn that hope into reality. Across the galaxy, the work of rebuilding had already begun. Worlds that had been scarred by war now pulsed with the energy of renewal. On the barren plains of Virion 4, once a battlefield littered with the wreckage of Dominion and Commonwealth ships, former enemies worked side by side to restore the land. The air was thick with the hum of machinery and the chatter of voices, a symphony of determination. A Dominion engineer knelt beside a human technician, their hands working in unison to repair a broken water purification system. The Dominion officer, his uniform now stripped of its insignia, glanced at his companion. "I never thought I'd see the day we'd be building something together," he said, his voice tinged with disbelief. The human smiled, her face streaked with dirt but her eyes bright with optimism. "Neither did I. But maybe that's what makes it worth fighting for." In the skies above, trade routes flourished under the Commonwealth's guidance. Merchant ships, once preyed upon by pirates and Dominion blockades, now moved freely between worlds. Goods flowed like lifeblood, bringing prosperity to planets that had long been starved of resources. Markets buzzed with activity, their stalls brimming with exotic wares, fruits from the lush jungles of Xandria, shimmering fabrics woven by the artisans of Luminar, and intricate machinery crafted by the Mandorian forges. Humanity, once scattered and forgotten, found itself at the heart of this new order. Their resilience, honed by centuries of exile and struggle, had become an inspiration to the galaxy. On New Terra, a human colony that had once been a bleak refuge for Earth's survivors, life bloomed in ways its founders could never have imagined. Fields of golden grain stretched to the horizon, their gentle sway a testament to the planet's recovery. Children laughed as they played beneath the shade of towering trees, their joy a reminder of what had been lost and what had been found. In the capital city of New Terra, a memorial stood at the center of a sprawling park. It was simple yet profound, a single shard of Earth's crust, preserved from the soul cataclysm, surrounded by an eternal flame. Visitors from across the galaxy came to pay their respects, their voices hushed as they read the inscription etched into the stone, * from ashes, we rise. From darkness, we shine. *. Clara Dorn visited the memorial often, finding solace in its quiet strength. On one such visit, she was approached by a young Luminar diplomat, her crystalline form glowing softly in the twilight. "Administrator," the Luminar said, her voice like the chime of distant bells, "your people have endured so much. And yet, you lead with such hope. How do you do it?" Clara smiled, her gaze fixed on the flame. "Because we've seen the worst the galaxy has to offer. We've lived through it. And we know we can survive it. But survival isn't enough anymore. Now, we have the chance to thrive. To build something beautiful. That's what keeps me going." The Luminar nodded, her glow intensifying as if in approval. "Then perhaps there is hope for all of us." As the days turned to months, and months to years, the Commonwealth grew stronger. Its council chambers echoed with debates and discussions, its members striving to find balance amidst their differences. It was not a perfect union, there were disagreements, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But it was a union built on choice, on the willingness of its members to stand together despite their scars. The galaxy was far from healed, but the seeds of change had been planted. And as the stars watched over this fragile new order, they seemed to shine a little brighter, as if offering their silent blessing. The Commonwealth's rise was not just the end of an era, it was the beginning of a story yet to be written. A story of unity, of resilience, and of hope that could light the way for generations to come. The galaxy was vast, its borders stretching into an infinity of darkness and mystery. Even as the stellar Commonwealth solidified its place as a beacon of hope, the stars beyond its reach whispered of secrets yet to be uncovered. The Dominion's collapse had left more than just scars, it had left voids, vast regions of uncharted space where the unknown waited in silence. And where there was silence, there was curiosity. At the heart of this new age of exploration stood the Explorer Corps, a fleet of pioneers tasked with venturing beyond the known galaxy. Their mission was not conquest, nor was it mere discovery, it was connection. To find life where it had been forgotten, to share the Commonwealth's ideals with civilizations hidden in the shadows of the stars. Commander Elias Varn, a man whose name was already becoming legend, led this daring venture. Elias was a figure of quiet strength, his presence steady and reassuring. His dark eyes held the weight of countless journeys, but they also shimmered with the spark of endless curiosity. He stood aboard the Stellar Horizon, the flagship of the Explorer Corps, as it prepared to depart from the Commonwealth's farthest outpost. The ship itself was a marvel, sleek and elegant, its hull shimmering faintly with a protective energy field. Yet it was not the ship's grandeur that held Elias's attention, it was the endless expanse of space stretching before him. Behind him, the crew bustled with activity, their movements precise but tinged with nervous excitement. Scientists, diplomats, engineers, and dreamers, they were a tapestry of species and talents, united by a single purpose. Elias turned to face them, his voice calm but filled with resolve. "We may not know what lies ahead," he began, his words carrying through the quiet hum of the ship. "But we do know why we're here. We are not explorers seeking glory. We are not ambassadors imposing our will. We are travelers, bringing light to the places that need it most. Whatever we find out there, whether it greets us with open arms or clenched fists, we will meet it with understanding. With respect. With hope." The crew nodded, their faces a mixture of determination and wonder. They knew the risks, they had all heard the stories of explorers who ventured too far and never returned. But they also knew the rewards. To be the first to see a new world, to hear a voice that had never spoken to the stars before, to bridge the gap between the known and the unknown, these were dreams worth chasing. As the stellar horizon broke away from the outpost, the viewports filled with the swirling beauty of uncharted space. Nebulas glimmered like cosmic jewels, their vibrant hues painting the void with life. Distant stars twinkled faintly, their light carrying secrets older than memory. The ship's engines hummed softly, a steady rhythm that seemed to echo the heartbeat of the galaxy itself. Their first destination was a system known only as Meridian 7, a cluster of planets shrouded in mystery. Ancient star charts hinted at its existence, but no ship had ever returned with definitive answers. As the stellar horizon approached the system, the crew gathered at the observation deck, their eyes wide with anticipation. The first planet they encountered was a gas giant, its swirling storms casting shadows across its many moons. One of these moons, however, glowed faintly with an unnatural light. As the ship drew closer, the source of the glow became clear, a network of crystalline structures covering the moon's surface, each one pulsing with a rhythmic energy. The sight was both beautiful and haunting, a reminder of how little they truly understood about the universe. Elias ordered a landing party, and as they stepped onto the moon's surface, the air was heavy with anticipation. The crystalline towers hummed softly, their vibrations resonating through the ground beneath their feet. It was as if the moon itself was alive, its song a language they could not yet comprehend. Scientists began their work, scanning and studying, while diplomats prepared for the possibility of life. Every step they took felt like a step into the unknown. Back in the Commonwealth's core worlds, Lyra Kellen sat at her desk, reflecting on the journey humanity had taken. Once a historian, now a chronicler of the Commonwealth's rise, she had dedicated her life to preserving the truth of their struggles and triumphs. The room around her was quiet, save for the soft scratching of her pen against paper. She preferred writing by hand, it felt more intimate, more real. Her journal was open to its final page, and she paused for a moment, staring at the blank space. Then, with a deep breath, she began to write. The Galactic Dominion believed exile would break us. Instead, it made us stronger. In the darkness, we became the light. We faced despair and found hope. We faced hatred and chose unity. And now, as we step beyond the stars, we do so not as conquerors, but as seekers. Seekers of knowledge, of connection, of understanding. The galaxy is vast, and so is our potential. Let this be the legacy of humanity, not one of destruction, but of creation. Not one of fear, but of hope. Asterisk. As she finished, Lyra set down her pen and gazed out the window. The stars beyond her shimmered faintly, their light a silent reminder of the endless possibilities that awaited. Somewhere out there, the stellar horizon was carving a path into the unknown, and Lyra knew that humanity's story was far from over. The Commonwealth's message of unity and respect now traveled with every ship that left its borders. It carried the dreams of countless worlds, the hopes of countless beings. And as the galaxy turned, its endless dance of light and shadow, the Commonwealth stood as a beacon, a reminder that even in the vast emptiness of space, the light of hope could shine brighter than any star.